To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
Mr. Tewari, do you concede that UPA governments in their economic policy were often accused of populism? There's a big election happening. Uttar Pradesh, your own state, Punjab, Uttarakhand, Goa, Manipur. There's virtually nothing in the budget which would suggest that it's a budget with an eye on assembly elections which happen literally weeks from now. In the UPA time, multiple things happened which seemed more populist. The government is saying capital expenditure is important because the multiplier effect is between 2 and 2.5 on every rupee that's spent, the impact on the GDP. Whereas the kind of revenue expenditure which you're advocating be pushed has a multiplier effect of only 0.90 to 0.99, and therefore the multiplier is much lesser. This is longer term directional economic policy making, which is good for the new India story going forward.
Well, Rahul, I didn't want to look into the rear view mirror, but since you want to sort of go down that path and look into the past, let me remind you that during those 10 years when the UPA was in government, the Indian economy grew at an average rate of 7.8 to 8% year on year for 10 long years. And this is notwithstanding the global economic meltdown, the Eurozone crisis, the headwinds because of extremely high crude oil prices. And I just mentioned 2 or 3 of those challenges. And the fact remains that even the finance minister in her last budget speech acknowledged that during those 10 years, 271 million people were lifted out of poverty. So therefore, those are hard numbers acknowledged not only by us, but acknowledged by even a successor finance minister. So therefore, under those circumstances, the proof of the pudding lies in the eating. And the reality is that today, 4.6 crore people have been pushed back into poverty. Now, has it happened only because of the pandemic? The answer is no, because unfortunately, this slide started in 2016 with demonetization. And then you had a very tardily implemented goods and service tax regime, which had a crippling effect on the informal sector. And so therefore, by the time you came to 2019, and if you recall the figures of H1 of 2019-20, credit offtake was down by 87%. These are all numbers before the COVID-19 pandemic, devastated economies around the world. And even today, when the government talks about a 9.2% GDP rate of growth, the fact is that we are looking at that number from a very low base. So the real GDP growth could be as low as 1.9% because minus 7.3% and 9.2%. If you look at the real GDP growth, it's about 1.2, 1.3%. Having said that, all of us are invested in the economic recovery of India. My only point of departure from what the finance minister is doing, she feels that supply side economics will work. They have given huge amount of tax incentives to corporate India, lowered corporate income tax. And this all happened again before the COVID-19 pandemic kicked in. But it's not really translated into the economic engine really starting up or the cylinders firing again. And this emphasis on public expenditure as possibly the way to start the economy, frankly, if you look at the experience of the last 2 years, doesn't seem to be working.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.